The Dig podcast is back. I am your host, Caroline O'Neill, and it's an absolute honour and a privilege to bring you some of the most inspirational stories and guests on the Dig podcast. And not only are they inspirational, but they're also actionable, which is probably most important. We want to be able to take small steps every day in our businesses and in our lives to improve things, to make things better, to de-stress when it comes to thinking about our working life. Will that ever happen? I don't know. But we need to believe that listening to people who have been through it all, walked the walk, and are able to share their experiences will help us. And I absolutely believe that. So get ready for another inspirational, actionable guest on the Dig podcast.
We are back this week on the Dig podcast, and really the theme of the podcast today is there is help out there. So that sounds very deep. And Brigid and I, who's my guest today, just had a very deep conversation before we came on the podcast about all things life. She's definitely one of them people that can help you in lots of ways, not just business. But Brigid is the owner of BD Consultancy, and she's a multiple award winner in her field, and she strives for perfection, and I absolutely know that because I have worked with Brigid in the past, and I'll tell you about that. She's a powerhouse in business, and she's got a wealth of experience, which is why I love going to her, because she's had all these different scenarios and different experiences that she can pull on to help you through your challenges. She's 100% success rate. Like, listen to those words, 100% success rate, and a down-to-earth approach. And it's just like talking to your friend whenever you're sitting chatting to Brigid, and sometimes the hours can slip by and you're like, right, Brigid, we need to focus, because I just love talking to her, and you're going to love listening to her today on the Dig podcast. Her strapline on her website is, and I think a lot of you will hone in on this, your success is safe with Brigid. And I love that, and it's absolutely true. Her and her team help with lots of things: business planning, grant funding, sales, market research, and so much more. She's helped me in the past. Like, this laptop that I am recording this podcast on today was actually through a grant that I got with working with Brigid. It was the Rural Development Grant, and we're going to talk about that as well, my mobile phone as well. So she's helped me and lots of businesses throughout the whole of Ireland. So if you're listening north or south, this podcast is absolutely relevant for you, because we're going to talk about the different areas within north and south of Ireland where you can get help. So really, if you're listening today, this podcast is about business owners getting help from agencies, government agencies, funding, support, digital support, training, mentoring. But how do you get it? Lots of businesses are trying to paddle their own canoe when actually there's lots of help out there, but we just don't know how to access it. Brigid is your woman. Welcome to the Dig podcast, Brigid.
Thank you, Caroline, and thank you so much for all those kind words. Privileged to be asked to be part of the Dig podcast. So looking forward and sharing my expertise and advice with all your followers.
Yes. So Brigid, people, you exhibited at the Dig podcast live event in the Galgorm, so you know what people need to know, as well as all the people that come through your doors and online to you all the time. Business owners are in a very challenging space. They always have been. Being in business is challenging, being in the world of work, because I suppose a lot of people who are listening maybe don't have their own business, but are trying to better themselves in their own field within their own kind of work environment. But you don't have to do it alone, is really what the ethos of this podcast is. There's so much help out there, Brigid, but why do people come to BD Consultancy? Like, what is the first thing nearly that they say to you that they need help with, Brigid?
Every day we get clients contact us at BD Consultancy, and a lot of the issues and challenges are similar. So our motive is that we're focusing on growing the businesses in Northern Ireland and our southern clients as well. So that's our focus. So we outlined, right, what's the issues and challenges that you're currently having in your business. And just to run through that, a lot of that could be funding. Is there any grants or funding support out there for us? Or we may need a business plan to take us to the next level. It could be that, our sales have dropped. We need the help and the support to tap into new markets, to drive sales, but we don't have the expertise or the resources in-house. We have our HR team within BD Consultancy. So now that part of the business is growing. We find a lot of clients maybe coming that maybe don't have contracts of employment in place, or are reviewing their contracts of employment, or having maybe issues with staff like grievance, disciplinary, or they maybe want to implement staff training and performance reviews, etc. So we offer that service as well. Also, accounts and payroll, we offer that service within the team at BD Consultancy as well. So, and again, one of your other podcasts, the lady accountant touched on that, about doing accounts and VAT, which is a very important role. So again, those are normally why clients are coming to us. Or sometimes, Caroline, and you'll know this yourself, running a business can be a lonely place sometimes. So it's maybe to just get a second opinion, another ear to listen to sometimes, and work out the plan of action to take your business forward. So those are mainly the reasons why clients would come to us here at BD Consultancy.
And that's so true. Like, I remember you came to my house, I'm trying to think, was it during COVID when you weren't allowed to be here? No, it was. You were allowed in, but it was around that time when things were all up in the air. I remember with Jared too, where he had started out in his own business, and you sat down at our kitchen table and you were like, right, just tell me, talk to me from the start. Where are you at? And you see somebody just letting you say all that, and then you helped us get a plan in place. But I suppose there's going to be lots of people listening and they're thinking, well, what can Brigid help me with? Basically, if you're in business and you're needing support in any way, in any field, if you're needing to access funding, if you're needing to see what grants are available, if you're needing to see is there any support, mentoring, and all of the things that Brigid talked about, how Brigid can either signpost you there or she can help you in the process. But Brigid, for people listening that perhaps aren't a client of yours or aren't reaching out, what are the areas, where can people go to for help right now? Could you break it down simply?
Yeah. There's a number of avenues that business owners can tap into, and it depends on what level you're at in your business journey, whether you're at startup or growth level, or you're an established company. So I'll talk you through a few of the avenues. Initially, every council area in Northern Ireland has an economic development department. And within that economic development department, they have business programs. Now, I want to stress at the minute, those programs are a little up in the air. They're developing new programs that's going to be rolling out later in the autumn time. But some of the councils still have what I call the one-to-one business mentoring programs. And for example, Causeway Coast and Glens has the Ultimate Light program, and that's where a business in that council area can avail of 3 days one-to-one business support. So someone like myself would be sent into a company to address their issues and needs. Now, they will assign a specialist mentor depending what the issues and challenges the business has. So for example, if a company wanted to submit a funding application, but they didn't have the expertise in-house on how to write that application, Causeway Coast and Glens Economic Development Department would say, well, Brigid, here's an assignment. Could you assist this company with an application form? I know Mid and East Antrim have currently one running. Belfast Council has one running, and I believe the rest of the councils will have new programs up and running before the end of 2023. So that support is available within the economic development departments within their councils. They also have other one-off programs, for example, digital programs, or maybe a sales program running. So again, I would encourage business owners within your district council area, tap into your economic development team. Then, and I'm sure everybody...
Just to jump in on that, you're saying tap in. There's people listening, they're like, I don't even know how to tap in. So how do they do that? What do they do? Do they go onto the website or what?
Yes, all council areas will have on their websites a business page. So if you click on the business page, it should highlight currently what they have available. And again, we do mentor on most of the council programs, or the last council programs that was out, we were on them. So again, I'm happy to share that information with anybody that finds it difficult to maybe get speaking to someone. So again, I can share that information available.
And just to say that I've been a mentor on the digital support program for Fermanagh and Oma, and was it Armagh, Banbridge,
Armagh, yeah.
But I've also had a lot of businesses contact me to say that they tried to get on those programs and were turned down. So there is actually a process before that where you need to fill out the forms properly to show, because lots of people don't realize their potential, don't realize what they're doing, don't put in the right stats. So actually make sure you're filling out that form properly, or else you mightn't even get on the program, right, Brigid?
That's correct. But normally 9 times out of 10, if you fill out the application, most businesses do get onto programs, Caroline. But again, and I'm going to touch on it, it's reading the criteria. So for all these programs, the same with funding application, the key is the criteria. Does your business meet the criteria? And they normally have the criteria you have to meet and the ineligible criteria. So when someone comes to BD Consultancy, for example, looking a funding application completed, the first thing that I would do is sit down and go through the criteria with them. Does your business currently meet the criteria? And we look at the ineligible criteria, because that's the starting point. And that's where a lot of business, they see this funding coming out and then they get excited, I'm going to apply for that. But then they get disappointed because they haven't met the criteria. So that's the starting point for whether it's a program or a funding application or going for a competition, awards, etc. Always read the criteria and the ineligible criteria. And that's the starting point.
Yes. And so that's the council area program. So everybody that's listening in the north anyway can go on and see what's available in their council area, make that phone call, find out from that person what you could be eligible for. Now, people who are listening in Southern Ireland, Brigid, what's the equivalent there?
Intertrade Ireland is the equivalent in Southern Ireland. And again, we also have the enterprise agencies here in Northern Ireland. So they're more geared towards if you have an idea and you're just starting your business. So the enterprise agency in Northern Ireland, you've heard of the Go For It program, where they will talk you through and get you a business plan to start you on your journey. Enterprise Ireland, again, is a resource in Southern Ireland where you can tap in for support, and they have grants available as well. But also in Southern Ireland, we have Intertrade Ireland, who is cross-border. So if you're a company in Southern Ireland looking to sell your products and services in Northern Ireland, you can use the resources in Intertrade Ireland. Similar, if you're a company in Northern Ireland looking to sell your products and services in the ROI market, there's funding available through Intertrade Ireland. So I'll start, Caroline, and talk you through what's available through Intertrade Ireland. Currently, they have a number of programs. At the minute, they have the Digital Sales Advance program for companies that is looking to increase their digital technology. And again, on their website, Intertrade Ireland's website, you need to read the criteria and the ineligible criteria, for it's available to some sectors and other sectors it's not available to. Okay, so that's one of the funding resources from Intertrade Ireland, and that's fully funded. So you will get to work with a mentor or a company that specializes in digital, and you can get up to 20 days support on that program. And again, it depends what your project is.
Okay.
So, and it's all outlined clearly on Intertrade Ireland's website. Intertrade Ireland also have a program called Innovate, And Innovate is £5,000, up to £5,000 of support available for developing sales in the cross-border market. So for example, if you're a company in Northern Ireland that's looking to grow your sales in Southern Ireland, and vice versa, if you're a company in Southern Ireland looking to grow your sales in Northern Ireland, you can tap into the Innovate program. But again, there is criteria to be met. And one of the criteria is that you're not currently selling more than 30% of your turnover in that market.
When we were prepping for this podcast, and this is just for businesses whose ears are perking up now, because actually this program is for north and south people. So like Intertrade Ireland is both, if you didn't pick that up. So you told me yesterday that a company thought they were exempt from that because they said they were doing more than 30% sales across the border, but that wasn't right when you looked into it. Then tell us about that.
So when a lot of companies come to us, I outline clearly, and I have what I call my business planning questions, where we will ask all the key questions regarding making sure whether you meet the criteria for funding or not. So for example, when I say there, Intertrade Ireland has a criteria that you're currently not selling more than 30%. So your company has to turnover in export markets has to be 30% or less of your turnover in that market. So I had a client coming to me, and when we looked, he said, oh no, I believe my turnover or my export sales would be about 35-40%. But there's direct sales and there's indirect sales. And what I mean by that, direct sales to export markets is where the client or the customer in that export market is paying your business directly. Indirect sales is where a Northern Ireland company is giving you the work, the order, but your products and services in return are then going, for example, to a job or a project in Dublin or one in London. So that's indirect sales. And that's the key. So again, I'm going back to business planning and your financials. What percentage of your turnover is in export markets? And I break it down geographically. So if you're currently exporting, or if you're not exporting, 100% of your turnover will be in Northern Ireland. But if you're exporting, again, as part of the business planning and doing funding application, I get into the nitty-gritty. So what percentage of sales have you had in other countries outside of Northern Ireland? And Invest NI and Intertrade Ireland export into mainland UK is classed as export as well, provided it's direct sales.
Brigid, whenever you're saying all of this, I personally am not good with figures. And when anyone asks me what percentage sales I do somewhere or what percentage of my customers are there, my toes curl up and I feel like I want to run away because I'm not good with that percentages thing. So I suppose it goes back to prepping as well, like having your finance, like you said to me when we were talking before, you know, like what Lisa said and the lady accountant, like having your finances up to date so that those figures could be extracted, that I could give them over to someone and they could tell me what it is. But it's about having that, all those systems in place good too when you're going for funding, isn't that right?
That's correct. And we would use templates. So we break it down as easily as possible for the customer or our clients to get the information. And if your business, as a business owner, if you get into the habit on a monthly basis, so if you're reporting on your sales each month, and I always say to small business owners that maybe one-man bands or to a company that maybe have 5 or 6 salespeople in place, if you get into the practice and the habit, putting the process in place, now whether you have a manual system or what I call a software system, whether it's through your accounts package, that you're extracting your sales figures. So you should be able to identify, right, This month, we achieved 200,000 of sales or 20,000 of sales. 10% of that was in Northern Ireland. We had 70% in ROI, and we had 20% in mainland UK.
Do you think, in your experience, and I probably know the answer to this before I ask, that this is an area that business owners neglect, and then it leaves them where they don't go forward for things because they don't know where they're at with their business?
Totally. I see it day and daily, and we have just finished numerous ambitions to grow applications for Invest NI. And if any of my client companies is listening to this podcast, they'll know that I was asking for information day and daily because we have it broken down. And I know some people may say, why do you need all that information for funding? From a funder's perspective, they want to see return in investment, because it is actually government money that they're putting into businesses. So they're looking to see a return in investment. But taking even the funding out of the equation, I'm a great believer in businesses being able to support their business without funding. Yes, funding is an add-on. So if you get into the habit of doing your reporting on your sales, your financials, even operational each month, managing labour costs, etc., you will have the information available when it comes to putting in a funding application.
I know. And Brigid, this podcast is really, really important because it's signposting people to the areas they need to know. But when you strip it all back, it's what we've been talking about in the business clinic series that we've been doing for the past couple of weeks. It's about those systems and processes and taking time to analyze what the hell is going on. Because, and I'll openly say, when I had Big Children's, where Brigid, one-man band, I did have staff in towards the latter years, but I never took that time to sit down, and I was so in the thick of it, which a lot of people will be listening, but I wish I knew then what I know now, and I could have sat and said, right, that's not working, I need to do this. So if you're listening and you're working for someone or you're in business and you're not spending that time, it'll be invaluable, Brigid, won't it, if they do that? Because then they'll feel confident about going for funding or support because they know where they're at.
Yes, and I know, I hear it, and sometimes it's the same here. We're all busy on a day-to-day basis, and you put things maybe to the bottom of the to-do list. But I'm a great believer, business owners, especially small business owners that don't have the team around them to support them, they have to wear a lot of hats. So I encourage business owners to outsource what you can't do or what you're not good at, and get the help and support to address those issues and challenges. So you're taking away an issue, but you're still getting the information on a monthly or a weekly basis. And that's the key.
It is.
And then when you go looking for support, and again, there's so many avenues of support out there. And honestly, I know our businesses in Northern Ireland do not know where to reach out for that support. So the word has to be spread that there is support at different levels for companies out there. So I was talking there, Caroline, on what Intertrade Ireland have to offer. Now, initially, I mentioned the Innovate, so that helps with sales development. And you can work with a consultant to grow your sales in cross-border market. They have the Digital Sales Advanced Programme. They also have the Acumen program. So Acumen is another sales growth program, and they will fund the salary of a sales resource for companies. Now, at the minute, it's up to £17,250 sterling or £21,562 euros. So if you're a company that has growth potential and you need a sales resource full time, and you have the opportunity to grow your export sales, Acumen may be the way to go. You'll get financial assistance to help you employ a sales resource. Now, one area I believe I need to cover for Intertrade Ireland. Intertrade Ireland focus on displacement. So what I mean by that you're not going to be taken away from a company in Southern Ireland that's maybe selling the same products and services. So this is where I focus on companies. What is innovative? What is your USPs over your competitors? And again, that's maybe where we have the expertise that we can draw that out of clients to be able to put that into the editorial of their application.
Yes.
So, and Acumen's there. Intertrade Ireland also have a program called Innovation Boost. So that's focusing on graduates. So for example, if you're a manufacturing company that's taken a new product to market and at the development stage, and you need a graduate to assist you develop that product, they have funding towards employing a graduate. And again, they focus on innovation projects. So projects that's innovative. Again, off the top of my head, it's up to 56,000 of support for the graduate program, the Innovation Boost. So, and again, they do have criteria for that program. I know one of the essential criteria is you have to be trading at least 2 years.
Okay. So when you're telling me all of this, like there's going to be people not even realizing that, and they might be like when you were talking about the sales position where if you have, I was thinking, God, there's so many retailers that would be good for in my head when you're sitting there, and then I'm thinking, oh, so it can't take away from a business that's already in the South. However, they could be offering something that they're not thinking is a lot different than someone in the South, but that's where I suppose if they were going to you, for example, you could pull that out. But if they're looking at it themselves, what are they doing that is different? I suppose you have to try and think innovatively about your business as well.
Yeah, and I know there'll be a lot of different sectors listening to the podcast, and normally retail is one of those that won't be funded. So again, you need to look at the criteria, the eligible and the ineligible criteria. But there is other avenues, you know, this is where we would sit down and get into the nitty-gritty. Talk me through what your company does. What's the products you manufacture? What's your tradable? What's your services? And that's where we will know before I even start a funding application. I have a good idea and say, look, I'm going to be able to get you the funding here or I'm not. Yes. And I suppose our success rate to date has told that. And, you know, it's making sure that you tick all the boxes.
Brigid, in Intertrade Ireland, so that's only a touch, and I'm sure there's lots, as you said, like a spider's web, there's lots of other things going on, but that's just to give people an idea of a resource they can tap into is Intertrade Ireland. So there's also Invest NI, which is everybody knows, you know, that word or those words, Invest NI. Talk to us about help that's available through Invest NI.
Might notice a different field of the podcast, and that's because in the past I have traditionally allowed businesses and brands to pitch to you guys in the middle of the podcast. So that was their way of giving all the best bits about their business and a great way to advertise for them. But I feel now like it's my time to let you guys know what I've been using, both products and businesses that have helped me be a better person. And I always say you can't separate normal life from business life. What makes you a better person makes you a better business person. So you're going to find a mix of everything. You'll probably hear me talking about things that I enjoy with my family, things that I personally enjoy and use, and also businesses and products that are making my business better as well. So a total mix, but hand on heart recommendations from me to you that I know is going to help you as well. And that's what it's all about, giving real life honest reviews. So very exciting for the podcast. Delighted to have all the businesses involved that are on the journey ahead with me. So today's episode is brought to you by Wild and Free. And Wild and Free is like an Irish outdoor brand, and it's all about encouraging you to Oh, just get outdoors, and it's just good for your mind and your overall well-being. And I honestly have found that I have started to, yeah, life's so busy with work and all I want to do. I'm doing all this for my family, but at the weekends, I just want to spend time with them. And we get outdoors, we get off the devices. But I want the kids to enjoy being outdoors with us, with me and Jared. So we have been going on day trips, we've been having staycations, and we've been wearing this lovely brand called Wild and Free. And Wild and Free was actually founded by Aisling and Robbie, who have 3 kids, just like me. And they wanted to just switch off from work, and life is hectic. And they decided they want to get outdoors more, just like us. And they wanted to be wearing clothes that were easy and, you know, still felt stylish but functional. And that's exactly when Wild and Free was born. It's like effortless and timeless. It's lovely hoodies and t-shirts and beanies and backpacks, and they also have this great part of their range called the cobe. So it's like the coat and the robe. Now, I am not a sea swimmer, so I don't wear it for that. But you know, like nighttime walks when it's getting chilly. I haven't worked to the football matches yet with the kids, but it would be great for that. School runs. But then also Jared loves to sea swim, so he could throw his on when he comes out of the sea, as do the kids. So the cobe is definitely an investment piece when you consider how many times you're going to wear it. But it's like a unisex range. So I have a hoodie, Jared has the round neck jumper. The kids have the cobes. It's just lovely, and it's easy to wear. If you have to go out on a head out for dinner, you can still wear your hoodies and still feel like stylish. So I've been loving it. We've been loving it. And the team at Wild and Free have said they'll give everyone who listens to the Dig podcast an exclusive discount if they enter Dig15. So you'll see me wearing it on my socials anyway if you're over there. And yeah, live your life wild and free is their motto, and that's what I intend to do. Follow them on Instagram at Wild and Free Outdoor and join the Wild Tribe community. Now it's back to the Dig podcast.
Invest NI is the organisation that's known in Northern Ireland for funding businesses. And Invest NI can potentially take you on even at the startup level if you have an innovative product or service that has the potential to achieve 250,000 within the next 3 to 5 years, and will meet export targets of 25% of your turnover. So if you have an idea, or you're manufacturing a product or a service that has export potential, I recommend that you speak to Invest NI. Now, there is client companies that came to us and that say, but Brigid, I've been turned down from Invest NI. So again, I'll go back to what I've said and maybe repeat myself here, Caroline, but I analyse the business from the start to where we're looking to go. Have we the potential here to get Invest NI?
So can I jump in with an example, because I think people need to realize that it's them. If you're listening, this could be you. So I had a shop for 12 years, Dig Children's Wear, and I had reached out to Invest NI for support by myself, and I got you're not eligible because you're not turning over 250,000 and you've no innovative product, and you know that was kind of the response in the nicest possible way. I was like, it's not right for me. I'm not big enough, in inverted commas. So I don't know how our paths crossed, Brigid. I can't remember, but anyway, you came and we looked at Dig Children's Wear, and I actually was in the process of wanting and starting to design my own brand, and it was my own brand of accessories. I don't know if you remember this, Brigid, but
yes.
It's my own brand of accessories for little boys for occasion wear, so dicky bows and ties and belts and all, and with the hope of developing a full collection of blazers and shirts. And I can feel all the passion now coming up in me again when I'm talking about all of that. But so that's what I wanted. That was my vision, and I'd already started to sell them. And way back then it was eBay and all that I was selling them on, and I was exporting to the South and England and all of that as well. So I was doing all of that, but had no knowledge of putting that all together in a package to present to Invest NI. Actually turned out you sat down and helped me, and I became an Invest NI client, got a client executive, and started to move forward, got funding for marketing, and was moving forward with that. And then the pandemic hit, and I closed my shop. But I actually was eligible to become an Invest NI client, but I wasn't looking at it.
Yeah, that's correct, Caroline. Like, a lot of small businesses believe they don't meet the criteria, but it's identifying the project And all funding applications will ask, what is your project? What's your project need? So that's where the likes of ourselves or other consultants come in and they analyze the project. And I sit down and I say, right, where are we at? Where are we looking to go? What do we need to put in place to help you get there?
Yes.
And that's looking at all avenues and asking the right questions. Then we write the editorial or the application with the support and the assistance of the business owner.
And Brigid, so Invest NI, so if that's one aspect where you go down, but there is, you said to me as well about Invest NI, it's like a spider's web. It's just about knocking on the right door first. But if you are listening and you're a business owner, don't think that you're not eligible for these things. You need to start exploring, asking the questions, going online. Would Invest NI website be a good place for them to go to navigate through?
That's a starting point. There's a lot of information on Invest NI website, and you will see there's so many different teams within Invest NI. But normally the process, and I'll outline quite briefly what the process is. So if you have identified, I potentially could be an Invest NI client, and you believe you have a product or service that you can export, right? So we pull together what I call your mini application, and it is quite detailed. So sometimes on behalf of clients, I submit that to Invest NI. I engage with a client executive. We set up a meeting and we identify, right, where do we need the support? So normally in that editorial of that plan of action, it could be new job creation. It could be market development. So if you're, for example, exhibiting at trade shows outside of Northern Ireland, they'll fund a percentage of trade shows. Or if you're developing a new brochure, or you have products that you need photography or video of, they'll fund under what I call market development support. So that's where you'll engage with your client executive and you'll get a letter of offer, hopefully. From that, if it's identified, right, there's other areas of Invest NI that you need to tap into. And I'll give you an example. I have a client at the moment that's taken a new product to market and they're looking to patent the product. So there's substantial costs with that. So through that initial engagement with Invest NI, we are now talking to what I call the sector teams within Invest NI, the technical development incentive team. So they will meet with that client and they'll discuss patents, trademarks, etc. And there'll be support to cover the cost with that. Or another client that we have currently are getting a new in-house bespoke software system built. Okay, so again, the client executive will make a referral to what I call the IT team within Invest NI. So that will be a separate letter of offer for the software system. So the other areas that a lot of companies don't know are available. It's not all grant funding that's available with Invest NI. There is other resources. So for example, if you're a manufacturing company and you're maybe struggling with efficiencies, they have, I call them the lean team within Invest. So they will have expertise in that team that could come out and it's fresh eyes coming into your manufacturing workshop and they'll look at improving efficiency. And now with so many overhead costs with electric, gas, oil, etc., it's looking how we can be more sustainable in our in our businesses. So there's that team. Also, if you are at a stage within your company that you have maybe a few senior managers and you believe they maybe need upskilled, Invest NI has the management and leadership programs where you can get your staff upskilled. They also have a library or an information center where you can go in, book an appointment, go in to do market research or pull together databases of potential customers. So that's all those services are free within Invest NI. Now, one of the things I want to stress about funding is, and again, it's the same with any grant funding, you get the grant funding, the letter of offer, but you have to spend the money 100% and then do a claim back for your grant funding. And that's why, and I'm going to go back to your business plan, your projections, your cash flow, because you need to have that funding in place before you can claim it.
Yeah, so just to put that in layman's terms, I know you did do it very in good language there, but in my head, what that means is you need the money in the bank to give it out before you get it back. So I did find that a challenge a few times in Dig children's wear, because cash flow in retail was poor, and I needed to pay out to go to the trade shows to find out about the things before I could claim it back off the marketing part of the letter of offer. Just to explain that. So just bear that in mind for Invest NI anyway, that you do need to have that first before you get it back. But it is quite timely and it is quite quick, and you do get it back in a good fashion. But I mean, it's just one of those things people need to be aware of. Brigid, Invest NI, as you said, it's like a spider's web. I don't think people realize all the help that's out there, the free support with Invest NI as well, but it's getting in the door, and that can be a wee bit hard for people to get their head around. But I think what's coming to the fore in the business clinics is people need to be spending time once a month to look at their business, to explore opportunities like that, to look on the websites, to figure out what else they can do to grow. So that's Invest NI, and there's loads more we could talk about.
Yeah. I just maybe touch there. Invest NI had last week that closed on the 16th of June, the ambition to grow. And that was up to £45,000 available for companies that are not Invest NI client companies or haven't had any support in the last 5 years for them. So again, that was the second call for applications, and I have no doubt maybe later in the year there'll be another call for that.
So that's anybody listening, that's ambition to grow through Invest NI. So you need to be on the ball to hear about these things, to tap into them and to make the most of them for your business, because I think we're letting it pass us by. A lot of people are letting us and Brigid, just to jump in before we move on to the next, I think that we've got two more things to cover. So we've talked already about the council areas.
Yes.
Enterprise Ireland, which is kind of the equivalent in Southern Ireland, like the council areas as such. Intertrade Ireland, which is both north and south. Invest NI, which focuses on the northern businesses and companies. But just to say that when you do this process, it isn't like a walk in the park either. It's hard work getting everything together, getting all the information, but nothing's hard work. Nothing's not hard work that's worthwhile. Does that make sense? So in order to get funding, you need to put the effort in. So this is a process.
Yeah, that's correct. And I mentioned there earlier, Caroline, we have what I call the business planning questions. So we cover every avenue on a lot of the funding applications. So when we go out to meet clients, we identify the issues, the challenge. So for example, if they're looking funding to grow their business, we will have the funding. What's the information that you need to pull together in order to write a successful application? And a lot of business owners will say that you may be asked in a section 200 words, 500 words. And when you see that in a funding application, the funders aren't looking for 2 or 3 lines. They're looking for you to utilize the 200 words.
Yes.
So it's getting all your detail in there, really selling your business.
Yes. Sometimes we're not good at that. I know
That's
we're not.
It. Yeah. And knowing your markets, knowing your unique selling points, knowing your competitors. Because these are the things that's asked in funding applications. How you're going to finance the funding until you draw down, and why is funding needed? That's always a question. Why do you need the funding?
Yes, so these are all things you need to be thinking about each of the areas that you reach out to. talk to us about another one, and we're almost through for people. And actually, if you're listening and this is all overwhelming and there's a lot of information, we have show notes that I'll have everything all outlined. Brigid's going to give me her notes as well that I can fill in on the notes I've made, so that you can actually go and see what was that they said, where did they say to go to. So don't be worrying, but this is just to give you an overview and to get that mind going about where you can get help. Brigid, Innovate Us and Skills Focus, talk about that, something I'm not really aware of.
Again, there's a fully funded programme out which is supported through the government. It's called Innovate Us and the Skills Focus Programme. And that is currently being managed through our regional colleges in Northern Ireland. So if you have members of your team, staff, or as a business owner, you can tap in to upskill yourself. So for example, 2 years ago, well, it was pre-COVID, I went and done my NVQ level 3 in digital marketing, because as a consultant, and we're encouraging companies now, you need a presence in social media platforms and whatever. So if I'm explaining that to companies, I availed of that through BD Consultancy for the Skills Focus, which is fully funded. Or for example, if you have a team of managers, they have a management and leadership program upskilling. Or another area, I had a client there recently where they had a design team and they were bringing in a new software, and 3 of the design team got additional upskilling on design software, fully funded through the Skills Focus Programme and Innovate Us. So again, I am encouraging business owners in Northern Ireland, tap into that resource. And again, I'll have all the details in the flyer, Caroline, in the notes that I sent you through, because it's given you an opportunity to have the best team. If your team is lacking in skills, you know, you can upskill them, which is 100% funded. The only resource really is the staff's time. So you have to dedicate time set aside to train the staff. And some of that training is done in the regional colleges, or depending on many staff, you have to upskill. Sometimes the lecturers or the trainers come out to the businesses, and that depends on how many staff you're training. So again, that's another avenue of funding that businesses can tap into.
People
so whether you're
Brigid, people won't know this.
No, and they don't, because again, every day we get calls to the office about funding or resources. And I'm taking it back to what I said initially. Our objective is to grow the businesses in Northern Ireland, give them the tools to assist them grow in Northern Ireland. So it's making sure they are aware of what is out there. Yes, all the programs is being advertised, and there's different platforms to find out. NI businesses out there. There's other platforms as well. There's a new one set up by a lady, Biz NI. So again, there is information, but it's finding it and finding the right information and the funding that meets your business needs.
Well, that's why I wanted to do this podcast, because I think that, like I said at the start, people don't know this is out there. They don't know how. So we're going to have show notes with links to websites, and you might need to listen to this podcast again. You might need to share it with someone who needs to listen to it as well, because this is invaluable, because you're just putting it all in a nutshell, and that's sometimes what you need. Sometimes people don't even have time to go to the NI business or the whatever other websites to find it, to sift through it. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible. So council areas, just to recap, council areas, Enterprise Ireland, for the southern market, it's kind of equivalent to the council area. Intertrade Ireland for both north and south, Invest NI for Northern Ireland, Innovate Us and Skills Focus for the north. And they talked to us about rural business development, which is what myself and Jared got help through you, Brigid. But talk about we'll just touch on this briefly, rural business development.
There has been rural business development funding for the last 4 or 5 years in Northern Ireland, which has been funded through DAERA. And it's for capital items. And when I use the word capital items, capital equipment, so within your business, if you needed to buy a welder or a saw, and I'm thinking of manufacturing companies here, or a laptop, or computers, or office equipment, you could have applied through the Rural Business Development Investment Scheme. Now, it was open each year. It was projected that we thought in the spring of 2023 it would open again, but I believe we're now on target for the autumn of 2023 for rural development funding to open for applications. The maximum grant that's going to be available is £4,999, 50% funded. So I use £5,000 as the maximum grant you can get. So on a spend of £10,000, you can get £5,000. If your spend comes to £8,000, the maximum grant you will get is £4,000. If it's £6,000, £3,000. And again, there will be a minimum spend there. I believe the last time round it was £1,000 to get £500 of grant funding. That funding is for micro businesses, Caroline, in Northern Ireland. And when I use the word micro businesses, that's companies with less than 10 employees on their books. So again, there will be criteria when that call for applications opens again. There will be an application process. It's going to be through an online portal. And again, this is where I say to business owners, if you believe that you will apply for that funding, you will need the 100% funding in place. So for example, if they open, say, September 2023, there will be a call for, say, maybe 3-4 weeks where the application process will be open. After the close date, the rural offices normally need maybe 10 to 12 weeks to score the applications. So you can't purchase your equipment until you get a letter of offer. And then you will be given a time frame of when you need to purchase equipment. So normally last time round it was maybe 3 months. So for example, it may be that you'll need to have your equipment and your claim done, say, before the 31st of March next year. And I'm just using those dates as examples. Yes. So that's the process.
And just to give you a real life example, which you're sharing as well, but I'm sitting here now recording the podcast on the laptop that I was able to get through the rural development. So I got a MacBook Air and an iPhone 13, and I needed those for because I was taking on another member of staff to help me and needed a laptop, and I needed to give her my old one, take this new one. I needed a new phone as well because my phone wasn't good and I needed better pictures and videos. So actually I was able, but I had to buy those outright, the MacBook and the phone, and then I claimed half of that back. Unbelievable help for me as a small business owner. And then also Jared needed a new welder. He had to buy the welder. He was granted through the letter of offer the money to buy the welder. He bought the welder and then he got half of that back. So I think his welder was nearly $4,000 or something. So he thinks Brigid Duggan's unreal, because he was like, I would never been able to do that. But there will be business owners who will be able to complete those applications themselves. It's going back to the things that you said about criteria, making sure you give all the right information, making sure that you're proven that you need it and all of that. But yeah, rural development grant is brilliant.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about rural development funding, it's a scoring process like a lot of the other funding. So for example, the last time round, your application had to score 65 points to get you through to the second stage to get a letter of offer. They will need 2 quotations for each piece of equipment. And again, they set guidelines for the procurement. So if you don't do your procurement correct, that could mean the difference of being successful and unsuccessful. So again, that's one of the key areas that we focus on for the procurement of the rural development funding.
Can I just talk about, if people are listening and they're like, do you know what? And this is kind of coming towards the end of the podcast now, and I'll recap on everything that we've just talked about. But there were people listening going, I don't even know where to start here. I'm sorry, I might count me out. It's too much. It's way over my head. But I'm Bridge, and they're probably thinking, I couldn't afford to pay somebody like Brigid to do that for me, because I remember when you came to me at the start, you were giving me so much time and effort and, really trying really hard for me. I was like, how much is this woman going to cost here to pay? Because I'm never going to be able to afford the amount of work that she did. And this is certainly not a podcast saying everybody needs to go to BD Consultancy. It's more about giving help to people so they know where to go. But if people do need that help, Bridget, what does that process look like with you guys, and probably with maybe some other consultants as well? What does that look like for you?
The process that we have here in BD Consultancy is, if there is a one-to-one mentoring support available through councils. Now, I know at the moment there's not a lot of that available, but a lot of my clients last year that we completed rural development applications for, my time was funded through council programs. So they got so many hours or days of mentoring time to complete the rural development application. So again, that's taken away a cost element from the companies. And like a lot of our companies.
Just to jump in, Brigid, that's what I wanted to let you tell that story before I told what happened to me. So actually, I didn't have to pay Brigid any money for my laptop and my phone to get me that, because she helped me apply for the mentoring support through the council area, which in turn funded her help to help us fill out the forms. But I didn't even know I could do any of that until I actually met someone like Brigid. So it's about reaching out maybe to the council areas to get onto those mentoring supports when they're up and running, to actually get help to fill out the forms.
That's correct. And normally, if you have one form completed with the support of a business advisor or consultant, you have a foundation there. Now, each funding application will ask different questions, but you will have part of it completed. So, and that's the foundation. And again, getting that one-to-one mentoring support, Caroline, the language you need to use in the application. You need to know what you need to cover, the information that the funder is looking for. So you have to bear in mind, there'll be somebody sitting in an office scoring your application. They'll not know your business at all. So you have to sell it to them in the editorial of your application. And I'm a great believer of putting visuals into an application form where I can, because you have to bear in mind there will be someone reading the application and they may not know what your manufacturing process is, what exactly you are manufacturing, and especially if it's unique or bespoke products or services. I'm a great believer in putting the visuals into the application. And any of my clients listening, they'll already know this, because I will be saying, right, we need some images of products, etc., to be able to upload into the application form.
Yeah, things that people wouldn't even think of.
Yeah.
But this has been like I know when me and you were even prepping for this, it was we were talking, I was like, right, Brigid, this is normally only 45 minutes and I don't want people to get overwhelmed. So if you've been listening and you're thinking, oh, I don't even know where to start, as I said, we're going to have show notes with all the links to all the different areas. We talked about the council areas, Enterprise Ireland, Intertrade Ireland, Invest NI, Innovate Us, and Skills Focus, rural business development. And actually, before we go, and I was kind of wrapping up, I don't want to miss out on this one as well, Job Start.
That's correct. Job Start was launched, I believe, there on the 14th of June. So Job Start is a fully funded program for 16 to 24-year-olds if you need to employ a resource within your business. So through the Job Start program, their wages will be funded up to 6 months for 25 hours per week, with the possibility of maybe being funded up to 9 months. Plus, through that program, you will get grant support of up to £1,000. So say, for example, you need to take on a young person, but you need to invest in some equipment for them to be able to do their job. So for example, they'll need a laptop, or you're sending them out to a site and they need PPE gear. Through the job support, that £1,000 can be used to buy equipment or tools to assist the young person to do their job. So the objective there is, if there's young people that are looking to get into the employment level that maybe have been unemployed. Through the Job Start program, it will fund business owners, employers for the first 6 months, with possibility of an extension up to 9 months. And it is a good opportunity to give our young people jobs, and also for employers to bring on board young people into their businesses.
And I have a real life example. My brother applied for someone to come and work for him. I don't know if that's the right technical language, through the Job Start. And I suppose he wasn't really sure what way it was going to go. Was it going to work out or not? But for I think it was 9 months, he got that fully funded job role. I think it's minimum wage is what they call it. Isn't that right?
And minimum wage, yeah.
So you can, as an employer, if you want to pay a wee bit more, you absolutely can, but the minimum wage is what you're funded for. And then he kept that employee for the 9 months, and then the employee's unreal, and now he works for him full time, and my brother pays him the wage, and he has no problem doing that now, because he's had all the training. It was a great, for a small business owner, any business, it's a brilliant way to embrace the young people who need a job, but for you to find the right people for your team as well through that supported kind of way with the funding.
It is indeed. And, it's nurturing our young people into the business world, into the employment roles that maybe they wouldn't have got an opportunity to do. And you also get, the support through the organisation when that young person is with you. So it's not a matter of sending a young person in and they give you the 25 hours wages support every week, and there's somebody that will come out and making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. The other key area that I want to touch on there, the employer select the young person. So it's not that you're sent a young person, you take responsibility of the recruitment process. So you decide who you want to employ. They may well send you CVs, depending on what the job role is. So for example, Caroline, your brother, he identified a job role within his business. He done a job description, put it out there, got a young person, interviewed, went through the process, and got them on board.
Yes, and it's been such a huge success for them, and it's a great story to tell. Another thing that businesses don't know that's out there that I think they're going to be jumping on, because that is unbelievable support. Brigid, seriously, there's loads more, but we can't talk about it all, and I don't want people to get overwhelmed, as I said. Where can people now find you, Brigid, to reach out? And please be prepared for the influx of, but people that are listening just need people like you that are going to tell us where to go to get the help. So where can people find out more about BD Consultancy?
BD Consultancy is on the social media platforms. So we're on Facebook, Instagram. I'm personally on LinkedIn, Brigid Duggan, and we have a business page on LinkedIn as well. We have a website, www.bdconsultancy.co, and that's just .co. And again, the phone, email, drop me an email. My email's on the website, and we are available if anybody wants to chat, And we will signpost you wherever we can. And like I do say to clients, and a lot of my clients will know this, we're not a 9-to-5 business consultancy support, because I'm a great believer that business owners sometimes maybe need to do meetings outside of hours. So I would have meetings in the evenings. I do work Saturdays if need be. So again, feel free to touch base if you need the help and support.
Brigid, someday I'm going to have you on the podcast and we're going to hear all about your story, because me and you talk about it all the time, and what a journey you've been on. And you've actually helped me so much, even before we came online, talking about just mentoring me, saying, Caroline, you need to keep going and don't let things get on top of you when there's negativity. We talk about loads of things that you shed light on for me. And a mentor is so much more than someone just getting you funding and getting you all of that. It's about someone just giving you the encouragement and the belief that you're doing the right thing as well. And that's definitely what you do. So thank you.
That's what it's all about, Caroline. It's keeping the encouragement going, looking at the issues and challenges providing the solutions, and sometimes just a listening ear. And that's where I would say, one of our USPs is, and I always say, when I retire, I'm going to write a book, maybe.
I think you should.
A bestseller.
It would be a bestseller for sure. Like, I love listening to it and everything that you've been through as well, and to be the successful person you are, because I think it really, what it boils down to is you actually care about people succeeding. And I can see that when you were with me and Jared, you were like, Caroline, get that Jared man to fill that out and get him to give me the information he needs to get this. Like, you were really working hard for us, and you know, that's more than just work. That's a person that actually cares about you. So thank you for doing that. I am going to put all the links where people can contact you underneath the show notes as well, Brigid, and we will maybe come back again another time with any extra support that's available over the next wee while. But for now, thank you for helping business owners throughout the whole island of Ireland.
And thank you, Caroline, for having me on. It's been a pleasure as always. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to another week of the Dig podcast. In order for the podcast to grow, some people mightn't actually realise this, but it really helps if you follow the podcast or subscribe. So depending on what platform you listen on, if you could take 2 seconds out of your time and go and either subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, and that just helps the podcast rank higher, the algorithm, you know, all the tacky things, but also helps me have a further reach, help more people, and also be able to get more guests on the podcast too. So don't underestimate that little follow or that subscribe. I really, really appreciate it. I also love to hear if you find the podcast useful. So let me know on social, send me a DM on Dig for Success. And also, if you want a screenshot and share it with the rest of your audience, I will do my best to reshare that on social as well. I will see you all again next week. And until then, let's just keep taking those small steps every day to improving our businesses, but also just being happier, better people.